Nandena Mataliko Bande Rupo Sanatano Prabhu Jugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Bande Rupo Sanatano Prabhu Jugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Shri Gauranga Gunanavidho Shraddha Samidhanito Pavastapuni Vrindana Tarunubhita Govinda Ganamritam Ananda Jai Krishna Govinda.
Can I be in the room while you?
Yeah, sure. Grab a cushion, or a seat if you prefer. Just sit there. I'll just read for Prabhupada. We'll go out live from 7 o'clock around cameras there. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura. So continuation, Madhya Lila, chapter 17, text 91. The remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were taken by the whole family of Chaitanya. When news spread that the Lord had come, Chandrasekhara came to see him. Chandrasekhara happened to be a friend of Chaitanya, and he was long known to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his servant. He was a physician by caste, and by profession he was a clerk. At the time, he was living in Varanasi. When Chandrasekhara came there, he fell down before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to cry. The Lord, standing up, embraced him out of his causeless mercy. Chandrasekhara said, "My dear Lord, you have bestowed your causeless mercy upon me because I am your old servant. Indeed, you have come here personally to give me your audience. Due to my past deeds, I am residing at Varanasi, but here I do not hear anything but the words Maya and Brahman." Purport. The word parabde, past deeds, is important in this verse. Since Chandrasekhara was a devotee, he was always eager to hear about Krishna and his transcendental pastimes. Most of the inhabitants of Benares were and are impersonalists, worshippers of Lord Shiva, and followers of the Panchokashana method. The impersonalists imagined some form of the impersonal Brahman, and to facilitate meditation, they concentrated on the forms of Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesh, Surya, and goddess Durga. Actually, these Panchopasakas are not devotees of anyone. As it is said, to be a servant of everyone is to be a servant of no one. Varanasi or Kashi is the chief holy place of pilgrimage for impersonalists, and it is not at all suitable for devotees. A Vaishnav likes to live in a Vishnu Tirtha, a place where Lord Vishnu's temples are present. In Varanasi, there are many hundreds and thousands of Lord Shiva's temples, or Panchapasaka temples. Consequently, Chandrasekhar expressed great happiness as he informed Lord Chaitanya that he was obliged to live at Benares due to his past misdeeds. As is stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, according to one's past misdeeds, one takes birth on the lower platform. But in Brahma Samhita it is said, Karmani nirdata hati kintu cha bhakti bhajan. There is no karma attached to the past deeds or misdeeds of one in devotional service. A devotee is not subjected to karma phala, or the effect of fruits of activity. Karma phala is applicable to karmis, not bhaktas. There are three kinds of devotee. Those who are eternally on the transcendental platform, Nitya Siddha. Those who have been elevated to the transcendental platform by the execution of devotional service, Sadhana Siddha. And those who are neophytes advancing toward the perfectional platform, Sadhak. The Sadhaks are gradually becoming free from fruitive reaction. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes the symptoms of Bhakti Yoga thus: devotional service is kleshik ni, even for beginners. This means that it reduces or nullifies all kinds of suffering. The word shubhada indicates that devotional service bestows all good fortune. And the word Krishna Akarshini indicates that devotional service gradually attracts Krishna toward the devotee. Consequently, a devotee is not subject to any sinful reaction. In Bhagavad Gita 1866, Krishna says, Sarvadharman parijyaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishashmima suchaham. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Thus, a fully surrendered, sincere devotee immediately receives release from all kinds of sinful reactions. There are three stages of fructification for sinful activity. At one stage, one commits the sinful act, but before that, the seed of this act exists. And even before that, there is ignorance whereby one commits the sin. Suffering is involved in all three stages. However, Krishna is merciful to his devotee, and consequently, he immediately nullifies all three stages: the sin, the seed of sin, and the ignorance that leads one to sin. The Padma Purana confirms this. For a further explanation of this topic, one should consult the Nectar of Devotion. Chandrasekhar continued, there is no talk at Varanasi other than the discussions of the 6 philosophical theses. Nonetheless, Papanamrisha has been very kind to me, for he speaks about topics related to Lord Krishna. Purport. The 6 philosophical theses are Vaishasika, propounded by Kanada Rishi, Nyaya, propounded by Gautama Rishi, Yoga or mysticism, propounded by Patanjali Rishi, the philosophy of Sankhya, propounded by Kapila Rishi, the philosophy of Karma Mimamsa, propounded by Jaimini Rishi, and the philosophy of Brahma Mimamsa or Vedanta, the ultimate conclusion of the absolute truth, Janmat Yasya Yataha, propounded by Vedavyas. Actually, Vedanta philosophy is meant for the devotees Because in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Lord Krishna says, Vedanta krid veda vid eva chaham. I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Vyasadeva is an incarnation of Krishna, and consequently, Krishna is the compiler of Vedanta philosophy. Therefore, Krishna clearly knows the purport of Vedanta philosophy. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, whoever hears Vedanta philosophy from Krishna is actually aware of the real meaning of Vedanta. The Mayavadis call themselves Vedantists, but do not at all understand the purport of Vedanta philosophy. Not being properly educated, people in general think that Vedanta means the Shankarite interpretation. My dear Lord, we too think of your lotus feet incessantly. Although you are the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have granted us your audience. My Lord, I have heard that you are going to Vrindavan. Please stay here at Varanasi for some days and deliver us, for we are your two servants. Purport. Although Chandrasekhar is an eternal servant of the Lord, he humbly presented himself as fallen, and therefore he requested the Lord to deliver him and Tapanamisha, his two servants. Tapanamisha then said, My dear Lord, as long as you stay at Varanasi, please do not accept any invitation other than mine. Even though he had not made such a plan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will remain for 10 days at Varanasi, being obligated by the request of his two servants. At Varanasi, there was Maharashtrian Brahman, who used to become daily to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Brahman was simply astonished to see the Lord's personal beauty and ecstatic love for Krishna. When the Brahmins of Varanasi would invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to lunch, the Lord would not accept their invitations. He would reply, I have already been invited somewhere else. Every day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused their invitations because he feared associating with Mayavadi sannyasis. Purport. A Vaishnava sannyasi never accepts an invitation from a party who considers Mayavad sannyasis and Vaishnava sannyasis to be one and the same. In other words, Vaishnava sannyasis do not at all like to associate with Mayavadi sannyasis, to say nothing of eating with them. This principle must be followed by the sannyasis of the Krishna consciousness movement. That is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu given by his personal behavior. There was a great Mayavadi sannyasi named Prakashananda Sarasvati, who used to teach Vedanta philosophy to a great assembly of followers. Purport. Sripad Prakashananda Sarasvati was a Mayavadi sannyasi, and his characteristics have been described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhyakan, Chapter 3. Being an impersonalist, Prakashananda Sarasvati used to explain the absolute truth as being without hands, legs, mouths, or eyes. In this way, he used to cheat the people by denying the personal form of the Lord. Such a foolish person was Prakashananda Sarasvati, whose only business was to sever the limbs of the Lord by proving the Lord to be impersonal. Although the Lord has form, Prakashananda Sarasvati attempted to cut off the hands and legs of the Lord. This is the business of demons. The Vedas state that people who do not accept the Lord's form are rascals. The form of the Lord is factual. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Vedascha Saver Aham Eva Vedya. When Krishna says Aham, he says I am, which means I, the person. He adds the words Eva, which is used for conclusive verification. Thus, by studying Vedanta philosophy, one must come to know the Supreme Person. Whoever describes Vedic knowledge as impersonal is a demon. One becomes successful in life by worshipping the form of the Lord. The Mayavadi sannyasis deny the form of the Lord, which delivers all fallen souls. Indeed, the Mayavadi demons try to cut this form to pieces. The personality of Godhead is worshipped by exalted demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. The original Mayavadi sannyasi, Shankaracharya, also accepted the fact that the Lord's form is transcendental. Narayana Paro Vyaktat. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the Avyakta, the unmanifested material energy. Avyaktat Anda Sambhavaha. This material world is a creation of that unmanifested material energy. However, Narayan has his own eternal form, which is not created by the material energy. Simply by worshipping the form of the Lord, one is purified. However, Mayavadi sannyasis are impersonalist philosophers, and they describe the form of the Lord as Maya, or false. How can one be purified by worshipping something false? Mayavadi philosophers have no sufficient reason for being impersonalists. They blindly follow a principle that cannot be supported by reason or argument. This was the situation with Prakashananda Sarasvati, the chief Mayavadi sannyasi of Benares. He was supposed to teach Vedanta philosophy, but he would not accept the form of the Lord. Therefore, he was attacked with leprosy. Nonetheless, he continued to commit sins by describing the absolute truth as impersonal. The absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always displays pastimes and activities. But Mayavadi sannyasis claim that these activities are false. Some people falsely claim that Prakashananda Sarasvati later became known as Prabodhananda Sarasvati, but this is not a fact. Prabodhananda Sarasvati was the uncle and spiritual master of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. In his Grihastha life, Prabodhananda Sarasvati was a resident of Sri Ranga Kshetra, and he belonged to the Vaishnava Ramanuja Sampradaya. It is a mistake to consider Prakashananda Sarasvati and Prabodhananda Sarasvati the same man. A Brahmin who saw the wonderful behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Prakashananda Sarasvati and described the Lord's characteristics. The Brahmin told Prakashananda Sarasvati, "There is a sannyasi who has come from Jagannath Puri, and I cannot describe his wonderful influence and glories." Everything is wonderful about that sannyasi. He has a very well built and luxuriant body, and his complexion is like purified gold. He has arms that extend to his knees, and his eyes are like the petals of a lotus. In his person are all the transcendental symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one sees all these features, one takes him to be Narayan himself. Whoever sees him immediately begins to chant the holy name of Krishna. We have heard about the symptoms of a first-class devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam, and all those symptoms are manifest in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His tongue is always chanting the holy name of Krishna, and from his eyes tears incessantly fall like the flowing Ganges. Sometimes he dances, laughs, sings and cries. Sometimes he roars like a lion. His name, Krishna Chaitanya, is all auspicious for the world. Everything about him, his name, form and qualities, is unparalleled. Simply by seeing him, one understands that he possesses all the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such characteristics are certainly uncommon. Who will believe it? Prakashananda Sarasvati laughed very much to hear this description. Joking and laughing at the Brahmin, he began to speak as follows. Prakashananda Sarasvati said, "Yes, I've heard about him. He's the sannyasi from Bengal and he's very sentimental. I've also heard that he belongs to the Bharati Sampradaya, for he is a disciple of Keshava Bharati. However, he is only a pretender. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was considered bhavuka, sentimental, because he was always seen in the bhav stage. That is, he always exhibited ecstatic love for Krishna. However, foolish people considered him sentimental. In the material world, so-called devotees sometimes exhibit emotional symptoms. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love cannot be compared to the imitative emotional exhibitions of pretenders. Such exhibitions do not continue for very long. They are temporary. We actually see that some emotional imitators exhibit certain symptoms, but immediately after their exhibition, they are attracted to smoking and other things. In the beginning, when Prakashananda Sarasvati heard of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities, he considered them to be those of a pretender. Consequently, he called him a loka vataraka, a pretender. Mayavadis cannot understand the transcendental symptoms exhibited by a devotee. Therefore, when such symptoms are manifest, the Mayavadis equate them with temporary emotional feelings. However, Prakashananda Sarasvati's statement is offensive, and consequently, he should be considered an atheist or Pashandi. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, since Prakashananda Sarasvati was not engaged in the Lord's devotional service, his sannyas is to be considered Palgu Vairagya. This means that since he did not know how to use things for the Lord's service, his renunciation of the world was artificial. Prakashananda Sarasvati continued, I know that his name is Chaitanya and that he is accompanied by many sentimentalists. His followers dance with him and he tours from country to country and village to village. Whoever sees him accepts him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since he has some mystic power by which he hypnotizes people, everyone who sees him becomes illusioned. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a very learned scholar, but I have heard that he also has become a madman due to his association with this Chaitanya. This Chaitanya is a sannyasi in name only. Actually, he's a first-class magician. In any case, his sentimentalism cannot be very much in demand here in Kashi. Do not go to see Chaitanya. Just continue hearing Vedanta. If you associate with upstarts, you will be lost in this world and in the next. Purport. The word Uchrinkala, meaning whimsical, is significant in this verse. In Bhagavad Gita 16:23, Lord Krishna himself says, if one acts whimsically and does not follow the Shastric principles, he will never attain perfection or happiness or the spiritual world. When the Brahmin heard Prakashananda Sarasvati speak like this about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very much grief-stricken. Chanting the holy name of Krishna, he immediately left. The mind of the Brahmin was already purified by his seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He therefore went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and described what had taken place before the Mayavadi sannyasi, Prakashananda. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mildly smiled. The Brahmin then spoke again to the Lord. The Brahmin said, as soon as I uttered your name before him, he immediately confirmed the fact that he knew your name. While finding fault with you, he uttered your name 3 times, saying, Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya. Although he spoke your name 3 times, he did not utter the name Krishna. Because he uttered your name in contempt, I was very much aggrieved. Purport. Prakashananda Sarasvati vilified and blasphemed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Words like Brahman, Chaitanya, Atma, Paramatma, Jagadish, Ishvara, Vira, Vibhu, Bhuma, Vishvarupa, and Vyapaka all indirectly indicate Krishna. However, the chanter of these names is not actually attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his transcendental pastimes. One may get a little light from these names, but one cannot understand that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord. One considers the Lord's names material due to a poor fund of knowledge. Mayavadi philosophers and the Panchachakas cannot in the least understand the existence of the spiritual world and the blissful variegatedness there. They cannot understand the absolute truth and its spiritual varieties, name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Consequently, they conclude that Krishna's transcendental activities are Maya. To avoid this misconception, one has to directly cultivate knowledge about the holy name of the Lord. Mayavadi philosophers do not know this fact, and therefore they commit great offenses. One should not hear anything about Krishna or devotional service from the mouths of Mayavadi impersonalists. Why could Prakashananda not utter the names of Krishna and Hari? He chanted the name Chaitanya thrice. As far as I am concerned, simply by seeing you, I am moved to chant the holy names Krishna and Hari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore, they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. Because they are offenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is identical with his holy name, the holy name Krishna does not manifest in their mouths. The Lord's holy name, his form, and his personality are all one and the same. There is no difference between them. Since all of them are absolute, they are all transcendently blissful. There is no difference between Krishna's body and himself, or between his name and himself. But as far as the conditioned soul is concerned, one's name is different from one's body and one's original form, and so on. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here in pointing out to the Brahman that Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand that the living entity is equal in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they do not accept this, they think that the living entity has been falsely divided from the original Brahman due to being conditioned by Maya. Mayavadis believe that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal. When an incarnation of God, or God himself, comes, they think that he is covered by Maya. In other words, Mayavadi impersonalists think that the Lord's form is also a product of this material world. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they cannot understand that Krishna has no body separate from himself. His body and himself are both the same absolute truth. Not having perfect knowledge of Krishna, with such impersonalists certainly commit offenses at his lotus feet. Therefore, they do not utter the word Krishna, the original name of the absolute truth. In their impersonal way, they utter the name of the impersonal Brahman, spirit soul. In other words, they indulge in indirect indications of the absolute truth. Even if they happen to utter the names Govinda, Krishna, or Madhava, they still cannot understand that these names are as good as Govinda, Krishna, or Madhava, the person. Because they are ultimately impersonalists, their uttering of the personal name has no potency. Actually, they do not believe in Krishna, but consider all these names to be material vibrations. Not being able to appreciate the holy name of the Lord, they simply utter indirect names like Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. It is a fact, however, that the name of Krishna and Krishna the person are both spiritual. Everything about Krishna is transcendental, blissful, and objective. For a conditioned soul, the body is different from the soul, and the name given by the Father is also different from the soul. The conditioned living entity's identification with material objects keeps him from attaining his actual position. Although he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he acts differently. The Swarup, or actual identification of the living entity, is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Jivarara Sarupahai Krishnara Nityadas. The conditioned soul has forgotten the real activities of his original position. However, this is not the case with Krishna. Krishna's name and his person are identical. There is no such thing as Maya Krishna, because Krishna is not a product of the material creation. There is no difference between Krishna's body and soul. Krishna is simultaneously both soul and body. The distinction between body and soul applies to conditioned souls. The body of the conditioned soul is different from the soul, and the conditioned soul's name is different from his body. One may be named Mr. John, but if we call for Mr. John may never actually appear. However, if we utter the holy name of Krishna, Krishna is immediately present on our tongue. In the Padma Purana, Krishna says, "O Narad, I am present wherever my devotees are chanting." When the devotees chant the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Lord Krishna is immediately present. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete and is the form of all transcendental melody. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of its being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. Purport. This is a quotation from the Padma Purana. The holy name of Krishna, his body, his pastimes, cannot be understood by the blunt material senses. They are manifested independently. Purport. Since Krishna's transcendental body, name, form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage are all the absolute truth, they are as good as Krishna himself, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. As long as the living entity is conditioned by the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the objects of his material senses, material form, taste, smell, sound, and touch, will not help him understand spiritual knowledge and bliss. Rather, these are revealed to the pure devotee. One's material name, form, and qualities are certainly different from one another. In the material world, there is no conception of absolute. However, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we find that there is no material difference between Krishna's body and his names, activities, and entourage. Krishna's holy name, transcendental qualities, and transcendental pastimes are all equal to the Lord Krishna himself. They are all spiritual and full of bliss. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using its tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. Purport. This verse is recorded in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we finish there, and from tomorrow we'll continue from text 137. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Sri Prabhupada ki.